Hey, how we doing, Denver? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well, Garrett. It's going all right. How are things going in your neck of the woods?
Not too bad. New Jersey's supposed to jump from 65 to 95 in the next 3 days, so
We're
got
not
late
far
early
off
summer
here
on
in
there.
Cleveland either. I think I saw most of next week's going to be in the mid to low 90s, which is pretty hot around here. I know some people might find that a little funny, but but that's all
Yep.
right. All right. So today we are going to go through the custom report writer. We've done a couple in the past, more on the intro, how to start the dashboards, how to put them together. So this one won't be entirely instructional, I guess. It'll be kind of showing off some of the different charts, different reporting metrics. We'll get into a little bit of kind of how to put some of the basics in there, but just to kind of the goal here is to showcase off the ability of what what you can think up as far as a dashboard, kind of put it in place for that one-stop shop for either maybe the accounting team or the project management team. But that's more or less the goal, is to showcase off the capabilities of the report writer. So I know that it has been a pretty popular function within the system. So Garrett, I know that you working with different clients as well, that this always seems to be the one thing that always comes up with any client.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, some people may have a little bit more time than others, and it does take some familiarity there in the back end to really, dive in and build your own reports. But I know the feedback on these sessions, especially around, the dashboard, has been very strong. So ideally, I hope we mix in more of these, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's not keep everyone waiting too long here. We got a highly attended session here, so let's get right on to it. So what we want to take a look at, we'll start it off here from our main screen, and just get us to where we need to get to, at least to start us off here. So over in the analytics section, anyone with the full access marker on their user account will be able to get into the custom report writer. So clicking into the access environment will get you kind of into that blank screen where, for those that are already familiar with putting these dashboards together, pulling in data either through the data set or the objects to build out the metrics and attributes that you want to include on these dashboards, right? So we'll start it off here with just a little bit of the basics on adding the data. And then I do have a dashboard that I put together in preparation for this meeting to kind of show off more of the functionality rather than trying to build one on the spot for everyone here. So once you
Yeah, I
guys,
think it's kind of good to show the end result too, the full capability.
right. Yeah, I don't think we need to walk through all the steps in this meeting. I know that we have a nice special going on, and I'll mention that here towards the end with some of the report writing professional services. So as far as starting off building the dashboards, right? Existing data sets are going to be where we're going to pull in data sets that ProNovos has put together. So job summary or change order summary. We've put a lot of metrics and attributes already in these tables. So clicking in here in these predetermined or preloaded data sets allows for you kind of just to grab a bunch of information and to start kind of your standard grid reports. It's going to be just clicking to start putting in information into that dashboard. Now, I'll try and keep it as simple and quick and detailed as possible here, but basically as you add in all of the different items into the dashboard, there's a couple different ways you can filter data. So the easiest way I think for right now would be to just go to the filter tab. We can drag in different things like the job type. If I wanted to sort all the data in the screen for maybe just the government jobs, maybe I want to include a second filter where I could just see active and government jobs. But this is where you can kind of filter in the data over. Now, these will filter anything on the screen. So if you had 2 charts or 3 charts or 10 reports in the screen, this will filter everything on that window, right? So I always like going into this freeform layout and allow you to kind of move things around, reshape them as need be. So, but, clicking in here, you'd be able to see, right, job, customer, cost, billing amounts. The one other thing I'll mention here, as far as some of the basics, we've picked all our data. We've picked a couple of items to pull in here. We can create formulas as well. So let's just say, for simplicity's sake, we wanted to compare the billings and the cost to get a profit number. So if I right click on any of the metrics, the yellow or orange ones, we can create a metric, and let's just call it actual profit. And generally speaking, I just like to go to the formula editor. There are reasons to use the functions or the sums or the last or the average. Generally speaking, for these types of simple formulas, I like to just go to the formula editor, clear out what's in here, and then just start building my formula. So I'll just take build amount minus cost, and I can save it, and I can add it. Right. So as far as getting the data in here, I think the first step is just knowing where the data's at, how to just put it into the charts. And then from there, it's just going to be a lot of just experience clicking around, building different reports. The most efficient way I've seen people grasp it is to try and build reports that maybe you already have in your accounting system, maybe have an Excel spreadsheet, or even something you wrote down on a piece of paper. I want the chart here, I want a pie chart over here. Trying to see something concrete and recreate it in here is probably the easiest way, because you can go in here and just, I want to throw a chart over here, and I want to throw a pie chart, down here. You can start to build these things out. But I think just seeing something visual and kind of moving it around to line it up with something that you already have in front of you is probably the easiest way to go about it. Garrett, what have you seen as far as people who have used the report builder? What's been the easiest way that you've seen?
Yeah, just kind of starting off like the dragging and dropping and playing around with the visualizations and filters and things of that nature. So obviously you can be very entry level or very complex depending on what your end goal is. So I think that's where it's important to reach out to support and kind of, if you're a little lost, just give us an idea of what the end goal is, and so you don't spend a lot of time going towards something that you don't end up with.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of data, and there are some restrictions on what data can be combined with other ones, like can't combine payroll data with general ledger data specifically. So there's little things like that that you'll get accustomed to as you start building these different reports in there. But I guess speaking of the end goal, as far as what kind of capabilities, what kind of functionalities can you get to towards the end here? So the dashboard I created was mostly to just show off different visualizations, just to show off different types of functionality. We're going to start with the project management one here first. And if you guys have any questions or comments or anything throughout this, throw them in the message box or the questions. We'll probably take a little bit more than 15-20 minutes here. So in total, so we got another, let's say 10 to 15 minutes here of going through these different dashboards here. But basically, like I said, the goal for this first dashboard that I put together was to show off more of the project level information, not necessarily the financial aspect. I wanted to show off 2 different views of these different dashboards. And really what I'm kind of basing this off of is one of the clients that I'm working with. We were building a dashboard for her and kind of wanted to put it all in one spot, right? Kind of have that all-seeing eye, or one-stop shop for all things related to the project level information, maybe more of the financial data. So this was kind of the inspiration to kind of sharing maybe some more of this functionality to a broader audience here. But with this project dashboard here, the idea is that we can filter these things out, right? I can filter it based on my job types, my project managers, my job status, and then I've got all my different charts and KPIs down here at the bottom, right? So the first one's just going to be pretty simple, right? Kind of what we were looking at in that last screen: budgets and billings and costs and profit, and color coding my profit percentage based on, the lowest 10% of them will be red, the rest of them will be green. So there's thresholds, there's editing, there's formatting, things of that nature that you can also implement in these dashboards as well. So some of the other charts in here can even be just simpler, right? They don't have to be super detailed. They don't have to be, a longer report, maybe like something like this. In this one, it's just, how much does each project manager have left on their open jobs? Very simply, remaining to bill by PM. So if you want to sort these any which way, same thing with any of these charts here. If I want these in alphabetical order instead, you can always sort these in ascending order, and it'll go by first name in this case. But what I did was, for any of the charts, for the bar charts, if I want to sort them by the dollar amount, so put the highest dollar values first and go down, you can always right click and then hit sort in descending order. So that way, just gives it a nice look for each of these different charts. But one thing,
we had some questions come up on like sort order and what's going to load when people exit out of the dashboard and come back in. Is it going to default to that?
Yeah, so when you're putting the dashboard together, it's a great question, Gary. Whatever is set up in the editor version, so like if I had these sorted by budget amount and I had this selected as closed, whatever is selected here when I save the report, when I first open it, that's how it's going to be configured. So the thing I always see is like, oh, well, I was in here testing around and I changed this to 2018 and then I saved it. Well, now it's always showing 2018, right? So however you have it saved in the editor is how it will open by default when you load it in the analytics marketplace. So like, for example, if I had something clicked here, or I had this zoomed way out, or it doesn't matter, just however it's configured in the editor is where all the defaults are going to be set, right? And you can make some small changes too, right, when you're running the dashboard. Like, for example, for right this second, I want the build amount to be right next to the contract amount. I can move it here temporarily. When I reload the page, or if I run the report again, it'll reset that. So there are some small changes that you can make on the dashboard, just for ease of use, right? If I want to see the cost next to the budget, just for quick comparison, you can move them around. But great question, Carrie. The other thing too, you can always export any of these charts here. So if I click on the three dot, there's going to be your export, and you can throw it out to Excel or PDF. More of the visual charts are just going to be PDF, right? They're not going to throw it out to Excel. So this will allow you to save it in either one of those formats. Okay. Some other functionality that you guys can take advantage of with these custom reports too is adding in drill downs to the reports. So clicking in, like, I want to see, right now we're looking at all active jobs, all PMs, all project types. Here's all of our change orders that are in the system currently. So if I want to see a list of all the pending change orders, I could click on that pie slice, and then it would give me a list of all the pending change orders, show me the job. Once again, the date, the change order number, how much it was affecting the budget, how much was affecting the contract. And then as I scroll through here, there's the next job, the next job. So this is kind of some of that next, the more advanced, more in-depth detail that you can add to your different dashboards as well. But wanted to kind of show off some of the drill down capability or just other reports that maybe you don't have room, right? You don't have room to show all the change order detail, but if I can hide it in a drill down option, or you can also add like images in there. And if you click the image, then, you can pop up a separate report. So there's ways to get around maybe limited screen space, if you will. Right. Okay. So looking down here, chart to show, because I know everyone, especially the project team, likes looking at the project billing analysis dashboard with the bill to date number, the cost to date, and the cash received, right? So this is more a simpler version, but more looking at jobs, year to date billings being in the teal here, and then the cost being in this maroon color, where it's showing, all right, from January, here was our two numbers. And then as we're going throughout the year, here's what we've billed out on all of our active jobs, right? Because that's what my filter says, right? So all jobs that are currently active, what we've billed out, and then what we have costed for those jobs. Okay. And then, if you wanted to add a year selector in there, you most certainly could. So once again, just giving you inspiration, giving you some different looks at some of the data that, you can put together that might be useful for some of the reports that you guys want to put together, right? The KPIs over here on the right, so just more of the accounts receivable, just given a status. So I guess the idea here is if I wanted to say, well, let's look at all jobs, and all of these charts will update. But if I were to pick, Earl as my project manager, I can take a look at, here's all of Earl's, maybe it will do active as well. So here's just Earl's active jobs, right? We can see the number of change orders, job list, year-to-date billings and cost, right? Plotted month over month. And then same thing down here, all of the accounts receivable for those jobs that Earl is the project manager for. So just once again, different ways that you can filter the data, different ways you can, manage which of these charts we want these filters. Because if you do build the filters in this way, you can pick and choose which charts they want to, or that they do affect, right? So we'll go down here to the bottom, just to show off the last two charts for the project side. So then this one, I basically just took the job hours and the state of the job and just created a map that shows, right? Clearly, we're doing a lot of work in California here. We've got a good chunk of it in North Carolina, Arkansas, Texas, not so much in New Mexico or Missouri, but a map like this where you can pull in the state of the job and show billings or cost or change orders, hours, even outstanding commitments. So which states have the most outstanding subcontract agreements or purchase orders out there. So you can also create different selector panels here. So that's the one thing I probably didn't add to this dashboard. But if I added a selector panel to something like this, right? What we could do is say, not only do I want to see hours by job or by state. So I want to see hours, I want to see cost, I want to see billings, and I want to see profit, and maybe profit percent. So I could pick all these different things in this panel selector, select it to the chart, and then what that allows you to do is flip-flop between these. So let's make this more of a drop down for simplicity's sake. So I could say there's my job hours by state, here's my billings by state, right? Here's my profit percentage by state. So having that kind of panel selector here of different attributes or different metrics that you want to report on will allow you to flip-flop between them and then kind of see the differences between all of, in this case for that state map. Okay. So then the last chart here, pretty simple, right? Profit by job type. So total profit dollars based on active jobs. So education leading the way, then government, commercial, etc. Okay. So for those that might be more interested in the project management reporting, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, and then we're gonna switch gears here to more of the accounting metrics and attributes and reporting. But Garrett, from what you've worked with our clients and more of the project team, what do you see that they're relying on these dashboards to give them insights, or do you see that they're using other areas of the system more frequently?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe 1 out of every 5 clients is kind of getting in there and building their own dashboards, and obviously time dependent, and the rest are, just kind of relying on what we have in the analytics marketplace that's pre-built. So I think it kind of varies from client to client and, what their end goals are.
Yep. Yeah, and I think if you have the resources and time to put into some of the report writer, I think the few clients I know I've worked with that have built tons of reports in here, I think they find it very satisfying to build those reports and have them available within your marketplace, because once you build it and you have it saved, you can then publish these. So under this custom section, you'd be able to publish whichever additional dashboards you guys have built out, permission it out, and then once you load in to the marketplace, you have all your additional dashboards there at the bottom. So
yeah, it's nice too that you can kind of slice and dice it and control permissions by each custom dashboard, and
yes.
As far as who gets to see it on the team, which is important depending on the data it's displaying.
Right. And two, with all the jobs, if we're doing job permissions or anything like that, or the new project manager level security, even if they have access to this, if they only see certain jobs, once they load in a report like this, they could only see their own jobs, for example. So, okay. All right. Now, for more of the accounting side of things, I know I put a lot of different charts in the project management one. So I wanted to try some newer ones that I haven't done a whole lot, which I think are kind of cool. Mostly this, I forget the name of the chart. But basically the same thing here, right? When looking at all things accounting related, we've put in our year selector, we've put in our month slider, so that if we want to run it for a certain date range, a certain year, we can filter it down, right? Now for this chart over here, the idea is that it's basically breaking it down. The left side are the account types, and then the right side is showing the months. So the idea of this view is the bigger the chunk, the more activity is in that particular correlation between the account type and the month. So like, for example, we see direct job expense, May, we've got $525,000. You can see it in that note there. And then the first one being $891,000. So the bigger, so like right here, right, if I hover over the leftmost, it'll say, for all those, it's 924,000 so far this year. We've got indirect being 382, and a total of we got 3.6 million for a direct job. But hovering over each one of those individual slices will give you kind of that month total as well. And then I added a little bit of a drill down feature here too. So if I wanted to see a certain month for direct job expense, if I want to see January, for example, here, if I click on it, I basically put a chart down here that would show all my GL expenses that make up my direct job expense for January to show the totals here. Right, so same thing, if I go into the G&A, it would show all my 7,000 accounts for that month of April. Here's the total activity for that month for all of our overhead expenses. Right. So for anyone wondering, this chart, I'll find the name of it because it's gonna bug me. It's under this custom section. It's this the sand key chart. So under the custom, this is the chart that we were using on that accounting one here, where basically just pick your account type being on the left, the month being on the right, and then GL amount to show the amounts from the left to the right. And you can add more layers to it. It gets a little funky if you do, but you just got to be mindful of how you have those ones specifically organized. So, but this, I guess this kind of gets a feel of the executive dashboard, right? Financial stuff on the left, got some payroll information on the right with AP and AR. So I guess while I'm not trying to reinvent the executive dashboard or some of the other dashboards, but just giving you different perspectives on some of the data that is available or some of the different charts that can be put together, right?
Then we're speaking of charts, I think we got a question out there on drilling down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me see. So how do we make the chart drill down? So basically, the first step is to create your information window. So if I wanted to create a drill down for the chart here, I would create my information window by clicking this. Now this will be the drill down. So then I would say what I want to show in there. So I want the account, I want the month, and I want the GL to show up, for example. You don't have to filter it. Don't worry about that. So once you have the chart, and this is that information window 1 that we just put together. So if I want to click in this chart to get to that other report, go to the 3 dots, select target info window, which is what we created up here. We can go to that information window 1, which is the one we just created. Now, the one thing I will say to do, go back to information window. There's a 3 dot. Just make sure you click on this apply additional filter conditions. Basically, it just means that if you click on, a month for a category, it filters this automatically. So when I click there, now we've got it set up. So if I click on March for direct job expense, now it's got that new chart that we just created here. So that's going to be how you add the drill downs to any of these charts, right? There is a limit of 1 drill down per chart, so I can't have multiple different things pull up, but you can get creative with creating like quadrants in here and different panels or things like that. So if you did want something to drill into, but you wanted 2 or 3 different reports, there is a way to do it. But yes, there is a way to do that. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, I think that was our first question here. Okay, so won't try and keep this too much longer here, so I can wrap things up. But basically, throwing different charts in here for information like payroll. I want to add drill downs there for, show me all the regular time hours by trade, total hours here, and then different KPIs for revenue per labor hour. This is our more or less billable rate that we're working off of. Overhead recovery rate. So basically taking all your job hours, comparing that against your overhead and indirect costs to see what it's costing basically to run the office, right? What additional cost per hour we're tacking on in the overhead. And then things like your AR agings. So same thing if I wanted to click into these pie slices to see, based on my 0 to 30, here's all my customer information, income by month. This one's pretty straightforward, but basically just putting in your accounts separated by month here, and then the cash inflow and outflow, and then just adding drill downs for what our 3 accounts were, what the inflow was, what the outflow, and what that net cash flow looked like for each month, right? So I think the idea here is or the goal that I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of information that ProNovos grabs. There's a ton of different ways that you can organize and present this data in a meaningful way. So if you want to take this information, we've got some other power sessions on more of the instructional side of the report builders that are on our YouTube page and the website as well. But I do